procrastination is just a symptom. It's a symptom of something. The something is you're hitting the ceiling of your internal operating systems. When you start procrastinating, it is just data. It's just a piece of information that lets you know that there's something else here.
Welcome back to the Richer Retailer podcast. You all know how I love a dramatic start to an episode. This one, I really think this is going to be my Oscar-winning award right now. So now that I've set myself up, listen, you know you've done everything right. Your tactics, your strategies are locked in. Your systems are solid, but somehow you are still stuck. So you blame yourself, right? Oh gosh, I must have better discipline. I should join that 5 a.m. wake up club. Or maybe there's like a different strategy. So you work harder, you adjust more, tweak things all over, but nothing moves. Nothing seems to change anywhere. And that feeling, that creeping sense that feels like a fog's coming, right? That feels like you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, but you're still hitting a wall. You're still stuck. And that is what we are going to talk about today. That is what we're doing today. Because what is it? What is it that's actually stopping you? What I want you to know is that today's guest is one of my best friends. She has helped me determine what that fog was that was overtaking me and what I was stuck with in the front, like what was holding me back. But I'm so blessed because she has spent nearly 2 decades. She's helped so many world-class achievers, so many C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, Hollywood executives, Hollywood creatives. She has helped them crack that invisible ceiling that you feel like you're on, right? And it's incredible. So this is Karen Lunow. Thank you so much, Karen, for being with us today.
Thank you, Kathy. Of course, it's wonderful to be here with you, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, and I want to build you up just a little bit more because it's not that I had you here just because we're friends, but I want you all to know that she is a transformational coach and speaker who's been doing this forever. She's been doing this for so long. And I mean, the people she's worked with are people who are already winning in the world, but they can get farther. And so they still feel a little stalled. And so what she does is help people see why. Why are they stuck? And she's built her whole body of work. Really, the art that she's worked on for all these decades is something she calls your internal operating system. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Through her, I've learned to pay attention to the physical emotions of things. And even just saying that, the internal operating system, Karen, made me stop. Like I didn't even consciously stop. My body made me stop and take a deep breath because, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. Thank you again so very much for being here. And what brings people to you? You know what? What's the moment when someone finally realizes that working harder isn't really working?
Well, so I'm just going to say that was wonderfully dramatic and amazing and beautiful. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the Academy, for recognizing. I can tell you though, you guys, I feel so emotional. I feel this so much in my bones. Karen, what you do is so important. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when people come to me, typically, again, they're high capacity people, they're top performers. They know what it's like to be successful, right? And when they're not, it's weird. And it's just weird. It's like, okay, I don't understand why this is happening. And so there are people who have turned over every rock to figure out what this is because that's what they do. They're really good at that. People who are really good at problem solving. And so what happens is that they work at it, it's still not happening. And so there's a point where they kind of go, there's something else. And it's me. Sometimes it's a me. It's like, oh, it's me in a blaming way. And it's not, should never be that. But that's kind of how we go. We go into the wrongness of what we're doing now. Or we kind of start to think that this is not, it's not right timing. This is all, this is as good as it gets, right? And so at some point they kind of come to, well, let's try something else. And so that's when they come to me, is at that point where they've tried everything and it's not working.
Right now, tell them where they can find you online because your social media, the videos you do are so powerful. In fact, it was one of your videos, first do that. Tell them where they can find you.
So I'm on Instagram, live a no limits life, and same thing on YouTube. Live a No Limits Life. So those are the places you can find me. And my website is Live a No Limits Life. So it's, Perfect. Live a No Limits Life.
Well, and what I love about your social media and your videos that you do is they're just little shots in the arm always for me. I remember so clearly seeing this video where you talked about procrastination. You'd use this phrase that I just never heard it exactly the way you said it. I've never heard it that way before. You called procrastination data because
Right.
most people see it as failure. When I can't get work done, I'm like, why am I so lazy? Right? It's like, to me, it's just proof that, see, I should be more disciplined. Maybe I should join that 5 a.m. wake up club. But you're saying that it tells us something else, isn't it?
So everything is just information. And in that, it's data, right? So procrastination is just a symptom. It's a symptom of something. The something is you're hitting the ceiling of your internal operating system. So your internal operating system is made up of your beliefs, your experiences, the meaning that you gave to them, the emotional kind of data that's all associated with all of that, your identity. That's your internal operating system. And your internal operating system has gotten you to where you are. And so, and I call where you are and your internal operating system as it is, that's kind of putting us, there's a ceiling now. I call that your legacy internal operating system because you've created this legacy of your successes up to this point, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you start procrastinating, it is just data. It's just a piece of information that lets you know that there's something else here. And in that, start looking at it in a different way instead of going into self-blame or into the old stuff, which we're all told to do, which you just got to hustle and grind and you've got to work through it. And, you've got to learn something new. There's some new strategy. And most of all of that is external and it's not. Procrastination is an internal data point.
Got it. What's so interesting to me is how quick we all are to just blame ourselves for it. And but what I'm hearing you say is that you shouldn't be, is that we have an option. When we see ourselves behaving a certain way, our one option is to blame ourselves for it and to think less of ourselves and beat ourselves up for it. And how is that working for us so far? I can tell you that, right. I mean, you don't catch it at the time. Often I don't. I end up kind of starting to do all that and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not helping. The other option you have is to recognize that as just part of your internal operating system, right? So that's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. When we go into that self-blame, and again for business people who are again operating, well, you're operating a business and at whatever level you are, but for every moment, every hour, and days, weeks, months that we go into blaming yourself, it's just a waste of energy, waste of time. And, as they say, time is money, right? And so what happens that's in that stall with their business, there's a cost to that. And it's just not beneficial. But when you can actually start catching yourself in the moment that this is just a data point, then you can actually stop yourself and give it a new meaning. With every experience, and again, when we're in a stall, when it's, you've tried everything and it's just not working or it's not producing the results that you've always had before or similar results you've had before. So again, we start to look at all external things like, well, it's the economy, it's this, it's that, there's something wrong with me. When you start to look, you can stop because we're giving whatever's happening meaning. And the meaning is, oh, it's the economy. Oh, it's me. It's, I don't have the right stock and, I didn't buy the right things, whatever it is for your store, we've given that meaning. And in that's where you stop. If you can stop at that moment and go, no, I'm going to make a different choice about what this means, because then that will change the pattern that comes after. And the patterns can look like hustle, grind, giving up, just, stopping, a variety of different things. It'd be gazillion things of what that pattern that comes after. But if you can actually stop and change it, say, no, this is just information, then you can change the meaning of it.
I remember so clearly coming to you. Karen and I we're accountability partners in a mastermind a trillion years ago. And so we've continued to speak regularly. And I can remember practically weekly, really all these times, all these years, I can remember coming to you after having, total transparency time here, having had this bad argument with Paul. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong? Like you could tell right away. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll tell you what's wrong. I am so mad because this happened. And then he said this. And then, what the heck? And then you're like, why are you choosing to give that meaning to that? Well, it's because this is obviously what he means. And I can remember you just saying, And And in that, what allowed me to stop that emotion train I was on and to look at it and like, right, why am I giving that meaning? Like, why was I giving it the meaning I was giving it, you know?
Yeah.
Another really powerful thing that you've said to me often is that when I've come to you with some sort of feeling, some sort of an emotion, I've loved how you've said to me, so what percentage of that is really yours? I can remember as if it was yesterday you saying that to me the first time, and I was like, well, 100% of it, because I'm the one who just said it. Can you talk about that? Because those two points are so interlinked in my operating system now because of how you've changed that.
Sure. We are always absorbing information, right? That's around us all the time. And we think it's energy, but it really is just, again, information. And we absorb it as if it's ours. And we feel that if we feel something and we get upset about it and we start to think, okay, I'm really upset about this, or I can't do this, or things are falling apart. And when I say what percentage of this belongs to you, it really is, we're picking up this energy, this information as if it is ours. And we don't notice that it isn't. It's just it's kind of like a virus. It's like an energetic virus. It's not like a bug virus. And it's so subtle. And we've not been taught that, okay, we're picking up other people's energy and their thoughts and stuff on an ongoing basis. And as weird as that sounds, it's absolutely true. And especially if you notice, if you go into a busy spot and all of a sudden there's all kinds of information and energy going around, you can pick up a vibe, right? And so you pick that up and, again, it doesn't belong to you. When I say what percentage of this belongs to you, and most people will say, well, 100%, right? And in fact, if I say, okay, well, if this person, or if you weren't in this particular scenario, what percentage would it be then? And it's like 30% or 40%. And ultimately, it's really a kind of an interesting thing once you start to be able to stop and catch on to this, is when you realize I've just shifted my energy, my mood has just shifted. You can realize that what percentage of this belongs to me. And then it's like, oh yeah, none of it. But even if you say 30 or 40 or 50%, I just always say, it's probably not yours. So
how do you turn that around? The minute you said that thing about the virus, I can totally see how that is. Like, I tend to feel what other people are feeling a lot.
Yeah.
So, but it's because I've accepted it, right? I mean, It's almost, you have a choice to accept that virus or not to, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a variety of different ways, but once you have it, you can just say, return to sender with love and awareness. Times a gazillion, right? Or some form of that, or I'm going to transform that out into the universe or give it to God, whatever feels right for you. But I like to say return to sender with love and awareness, because then the person that, or whoever you're feeling that from, actually then has the opportunity to potentially transform that for themselves. And also just being aware that, oh, I am empathetic. I do pick up other people's stuff. So you can imagine going out, when you are going to go out into larger crowds, or even parties or whatever it is, and that you kind of gather that information, is just, I always say, you're dialing up your field, right? Your force field, like a Star Wars thing, right? So you just dial up your force field. That is one of those things that you can do, right?
Well, and so knowing that we have that ability to send that back, so we don't have to accept that emotional virus from someone else. What happens in the situation where, like, to go back to the procrastination example, where I'm procrastinating on something that I know my business and I know my life would benefit if I took action on this, and I'm not taking action on it? What do I do? Okay, so I've stopped beating myself up about that. Okay, but then what do I do with that? What do I do with that data?
Well, it's at that point where you might say, okay, what is this procrastination trying to show me? And at that point, just stop and listen, right? Stop and listen to what comes in. We're always so used to, okay, I'm going to go online and I'm going to, look something up, right? Or I'm going to go on, and now these days I'm going to go on AI. It's like, okay, why am I feeling this procrastination? And it can sometimes come up with some really good ideas and ideas, not thoughts necessarily, because it's AI. But ultimately, if you just allow yourself to just go away, ask that question. And this is something I recommend to everybody is, if you're trying to solve a problem, just stop, ask the question, and then go do something else. Don't try and sit there and think about it and figure it out. Because when you're trying to figure something out, all you're doing is actually accessing what you already know. And because you already know it, you would have already figured it out, right? Like, so you're just rehashing old data, right? Old information. And so that's not necessarily helpful. But if you ask, okay, ask it. And then I call it the difference between downloading and conjuring up information, right? So downloading, so you just kind of go out. My favorite place is to go out in my deck, right? And if I sit for a moment and after asking the question, and often the answer comes to me right away. And it's, to me, it's just a download. It's just something that pops in, right? As opposed to conjuring is like, you can feel that the wheels are turning in your head, right? The mouse is going, going a million miles an hour.
Tell them the where are the keys story. I love that one.
Okay, right. Yes. Well, so we've all lost our keys at some point in time, right? And we can't find them. So we'll look around. We will start looking everywhere. And the conversation in our head starts going, I can't find my keys. I've lost my keys. I don't know where my keys are. And so we continue to look, and there's a point, we've all done this, and it can go on for, 20 minutes, an hour. It's like, okay, I can't find my keys. I've got to go do something else, right? So you go do something else. And what has happened is you let that idea of, I don't have my keys, I've lost my keys, it's gone, right? You're focused on something else. And then all of a sudden you come back, and then you'll find the keys, and they're there, and they're in a place that you checked, 10 times before. They probably always were there. It's just that when their mind and the commands that we give to our mind by the statements that we make internally, or, if we say them out loud, which is even more powerful, our subconscious and our senses have to obey that. They have to obey it. So in fact, it will be that it doesn't allow you to actually see what's right in front of you.
Because you're telling yourself you can't find it.
Exactly. It's a part of our brain. It's called the reticular activating system, and it's responsible for that. So at any given time, our subconscious mind, which includes all our senses, processes about, I don't know, the numbers keep changing through time, but let's say it's 30 billion bits of information per second. That's how much information it's processing. Our conscious mind processes like 0.5% of, it's like maybe a million, right? A million bits of information per second. So a million versus 30 billion is like, there's no comparison. And so when you consciously say, this is, I can't find my keys, you're actually, again, giving that command to your subconscious mind that all this information is not relevant except for this part where she can't find her keys.
And you're telling yourself you can't find them. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is.
It is exactly that.
But again, there's a mechanism that actually makes sure that it proves you right. So you've indicated this is important. And so it says, okay, so everything else goes away except the fact that whatever she's just said, the declaration.
Right.
So when we say I'm procrastinating, there's something wrong with me, then it will find all the reasons that there's something wrong with you, which is
because you've told yourself to do that. You've told yourself to find those ideas. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, it's just so powerful, and it's scientific. That's the thing, is that forever this was all, this whole line of thought wasn't given the credit, frankly, that it deserved, because now we see so clearly and it's spoken about. I would imagine that you've heard of reticular activating system before, because it's the same thing that, like, when you're first pregnant, or no, I love the example of buying a white car. This is when I learned about it. I had bought a white Acura, and you had told me about reticular activating system, and I saw white Acuras everywhere. And of course there weren't any more than there ever had been before. It's just that I had trained my brain to look for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So then if I'm sitting here with my legacy operating system, and if I tend to, beat myself up for losing things, and beat myself up, and think that it's a character flaw that I procrastinate, what can I do to change that?
Well, again, just taking yourself out of those particular consistent actions that you're taking, and then start to monitor your belief and your thoughts that are going on in your mind again, and continue to see what are the patterns that come after them, right? And the more that you can actually just jump in and choose differently and say, no, actually, this is just information. And so therefore, what is it that, what does this mean? What am I making this mean? And then you can start asking different questions. What's the next step? And again, not that something you're going to go online and check out, right? Because those are all, again, external actions, right?
And you would say that I already know what it is. I mean, and it's like you said before, that you have to break that thought pattern and change the question you're asking yourself. and then go do something else, so that you've
Yeah.
allowed space for that. But the next step is to come into your mind, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I like to say what you're doing is you're actually not changing. It's not even like you're updating your internal operating system. You're actually clearing it out, right? And so
Mm,
you're clearing out all that stuff, that all those ideas and beliefs, and again, patterns, those immediate actions that you take. And you like to say you're defragging the system, right? So if you
mhm.
remember, you kind of start to, years ago with your computer, it's like, okay, it needs to be defragged. It's like, it's because it gets, all this stuff gets jumbled up in it. All this non-pertinent information is there. And so you used to, again, you'd be able to used to watch the blocks kind of get, eliminated or reorganized. And
Mhm.
so in doing that, so we need to defrag ourselves. Specifically for me, I have a process called the shift codes. And so it's looking at what are my paradigms? Where are the beliefs that I have that are underneath? And then also, what are the emotional patterns that I have that are connected to this particular situation that I'm procrastinating on? And then all both those things are identity. Is like, who am I? Am I the kind of person that actually procrastinates? Okay, no. But, or yes, it's like a lot of people say they take on that identity. Is like, I'm a great procrastinator. I procrastinate in these kinds of situations. I always procrastinate, right? And so therefore I must be a terrible person, right? So when we can start disassembling those ideas and those thoughts and shifting our identities and moving into the state of, okay, well, who would I need to be in order to combat this or to move past it? So there are those particular things. The other thing is too, and I just remembered, I had written an article about this for a magazine like 8 years ago. And procrastination, so it is data for sure. There's sometimes it's like we're procrastination when there's something that we need to do, it is deadline driven. And so we need to actually also start looking at our way of being. Like, how do we actually operate? Are we the type of people that like to have a goal and here's my end date? And so therefore we work methodically towards it. If that's the case, then probably procrastination is not your situation, but your way of being, or you
Mhm.
wouldn't call yourself a procrastinator. But for
Mhm.
those of us who like deadlines and we like doing things, the day before the deadline or the day of the deadline, but then we beat ourselves up because, oh, I'm such a terrible procrastinator because I always do this. Well, sure, but maybe that's how you actually excel is by, and so recognizing that and letting yourself off the hook that you
Mm.
are not a bad person again. So that, again, piece of data, piece of information, you don't need to spend any time on that anymore. The other thing also with procrastination is sometimes we just don't have enough information in the moment to make a decision or
Mhm.
to actually, or the help that we need in order to get something done. So there's the other thing. And sometimes, of course, things are just boring or difficult. And so we just need to schedule it. So there's those three things with procrastination that you can do, that to start to mitigate that. But again, some of it is fear based. And it
Yeah.
is a protection mechanism. And that's where actually the ceiling, we bump up against that ceiling. And so at that point, other than asking, well, continuing to ask that question, okay, what is this trying to show me? And continuing to listen to that. Or you could actually also just take on the identity of somebody who never procrastinates and
Mhm.
just say, oh no, I am not a procrastinator. And so just take action, right?
Right.
Not hustling, but
No.
just like, oh, no, I'm not a procrastinator, and just don't give that any energy. And the other thing is also, if those things don't work, working with somebody like me was, is another option. But
Mhm. I mean, because sometimes you can't see it yourself, you know?
no, well, those invisible ceilings, they're pretty tricky, right? Because they feel true, right? And again, procrastination is just showing you where your operating system it's met its level, it's met its top level. So to
Mhm.
move into that next level, there's things that just need to be cleared
Right.
out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for all this. I love being able to share practical actions that people can take. And you've certainly given us many actions that people can take tomorrow or the next time they find themselves procrastinating or dealing with their legacy operating system. The one thing I want to go back to is the shift codes. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, this is actually something that I've been doing with my clients forever, right? And you and I've done this, right? Where I'll listen to you and get a sense of what's going on. And there's really three things at play. Typically, there's again, and the shift codes are the paradigm shift. So
Mm.
sometimes all somebody needs is a paradigm shift, right? It's just like, because they think something is so true. And when I hear, just like you and I've talked about, just, you're talking about when you were mad at Paul, right? And I just like, oh, is that really true? Or whatever I said is like, is that so? And so sometimes a shift in a paradigm is all that's needed in order to actually move back up into that, past that ceiling and actually let go whatever was causing issues. And then there's the next one is I call them the energetic shifts, because really with everything, again, there's the meaning that we attach to something, but then with that meaning to an experience that's happened to us, and this could have happened any time in our lives, we've associated some kind of meaning to it, and it serves again as a protection mechanism, and it's energetic, and it's stuck in our bodies. Often it's stuck in our field. It's just, and it's in our nervous system, and in that it doesn't allow us to move further, and we just don't even see it. There's something that recently that I just realized that, oh, I wasn't allowing something into my life because of what I made meaning of in a number of different situations. Mm-hmm. And I work with this every day, right? Mm-hmm. But because it's hard to see it for yourself, you have to keep moving and asking different questions and saying, well, why would somebody or why would somebody like me have this particular issue? Or what is being mirrored here? I guess that's also. But anyways, with the energetic shift, what I do is I actually do a clearing process, and which is very powerful, and actually just releasing that energy. And it's not about therapy. It's not about going back to, okay, we've got to go back to your childhood. Sometimes that thing will come up, but can be gone in, moments, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the energetic shift. And then the last one is the identity shift. Ultimately, all we're doing is trying to get to the identity shift. And you can walk right into an identity shift. You can just decide, oh, I'm going to play this character. I'm going to be this person now. But most of us have all this other junk, the paradigms and the energetics that don't allow us to do that immediately or stay there, stay aligned with that. So in that, by doing a paradigm shift or an energetic shift, those two things will make an identity shift pretty quickly.
Right. I can see how that would happen. I can see how, because everything else is allowing any sort of limiting belief to stop you. And so that's why you need those shifts. Gosh, thank you so much, Karen, for sharing all this incredible information. And listen, if you specifically have any other questions you want me to ask Karen, please make sure you send them to us, because I'd love to share them with her, and we can absolutely have her come back again. There's so much more that we can for sure talk about.
Just scratch the surface.
We just scratch the surface. Those of you watching on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see how her brain, I joke that I can literally see the smoke coming out of her brain, because there were a million other things she wanted to say, but she was trying to stay on track. So yes, we'd love to have you back, Karen. So please send me your questions, because I want to ask her more. And of course, reach out to her beyond a shadow of a doubt, because your life will be made better for sure. Hey, so Karen, we always end our episodes with what we call a milli moment. So a milli is what we call our $1 million store owners here on the show. And so a milli moment is that time in your journey when you achieved something that felt extraordinary. It might have been a number, but maybe not. Something that made you just stop and say, wow, I actually did that. It doesn't have to be, like I said, about hitting a number or something. It's really any sort of breakthrough or realization or any moment of pride or joy that shaped who you are in business. So, Karen, what is your milli moment, and how did it impact your journey?
Well, my milli moment really was the beginning, honestly, of my whole business. And it was following, like I tell everybody to, it's like following the energy, following those inspirational moments. And I thought that I needed to, at that point in time, I was learning and talking about law of attraction. And I just thought everybody in the world needs to know this. Everybody. The inspiration that came up for me in the milli moment was, hey, do a podcast. And I put the podcast out, and within a month, it went right to the top of the iTunes charts and stayed there for 13 years. So, and I stopped counting at some point. It was like 20 million downloads, and I stopped counting. It was just like, what? Because it was a long time ago. And so there wasn't all the tools that you can see that you have now in order to know what you were doing. But it was like, that was extraordinary. And that's what I help my clients do, is to do that. And that's what I keep, affecting. And now this what I'm doing now is now the culmination of all of that. So
Mhm.
yes, so that was it.
Gosh, yeah. You were one of the original pioneers, honestly. Like, you were ahead of all this stuff. It's incredible to think about how you achieved that. Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations.
yeah.
Oh, Karen, this has been so good. I love how you see the work, right? That it's not more tactics, it's not more strategy about the work, that it's the identity shift, well, which comes from the paradigm shift and the energetic shift that you were talking about, those shift codes. So thank you so much. So one more time, if people want to find you and work with you, where do they go?
You can go to liveandnolimitslife.com
Mm-hmm.
and Live and No Limits Life and really everything. I also didn't talk about LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So I'm kind of in those 3 areas. I do a little TikTok, but not a lot. So, but yeah, Live and No Limits Life is how you'll find me.
And here's what I want you to hear. If you're grinding and you're hustling and nothing is moving, that is not failure. That's data. That's information. That's your internal operating system telling you exactly where the ceiling is, right? And once you see it, you can start shifting it using the tools that Karen talked about today. Because of her, I've gotten into this and talk about it so much in our richer retailer method. In fact, we have a whole thing called a whole system within that method called the richer retailer identity, because that work is built for this. It helps you move from these beliefs that can cap you out, that just stop you, that you just hit that limit, into patterns that can expand you, like Karen talked about today. So yeah, it's if you're interested in getting more information about that too, that link is in the show notes if you'd like to talk to us about it. And please do reach out to Karen. They'll help remind you of who you really can be. And listen, if you all loved this episode and you haven't hit that follow button yet, take 2 seconds right now to do it. And then you can come find us everywhere. We're Retail Mavens everywhere, and we'd love to see you. DM me any questions you have for Karen so we can have her back on. And right now, I want you to know that you are astonishingly fabulous and you are loved. Thank you so much, Karen, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.